She was. Yes, she loved everything fashion, makeup. She loved, I remember whenever she was little, she would have magazines, Cosmo, Teen Vogue, those kind of magazines. So she really liked it. She liked to try to put together an outfit for you, or, basically trying the newest hairstyle, newest makeup tips. That was definitely Jessica. Well, okay, so I really didn't spend too much time with Jessica. I'm 5 years older than Jessica. So when our parents got together, I was more worried about going out with my friends and stuff. I was a teenager. Jessica was, I think she was like 11 or 12 at the time. So, but I just remember Jessica when we first met. Now this was the 80s. So she used to sit there and like, so my hair was like spiked really high, ripped up clothes and stuff. And I remember the first time we met and we got introduced to each other, she just stared at me like, oh my God, And then like her room was decorated with horsey posters and kittens and stuff. Mine was like 80s rock bands, Motley Crue, Ozzy Osbourne. So my room was black and purple, hers was a pretty peach color. So we weren't, I don't want to say we weren't close, but we weren't as close as Amanda and Jessica. They're more in age together. So while they were running around, because who wants their little sisters running around them, I'd like to go out. That was my thing. I was, in cars, going on the beach and doing my thing. I didn't have time to be at home. So, but we used to go to church every Sunday. Every Sunday. We would have family dinners every Sunday, whether my mom and dad cooked or we went out to eat. Aunt Jenny's was another favorite restaurant of ours that we would go to. Um, we come from a very, very large Catholic family. My dad is one of 12, and my mom is one of, oh my God, I don't know. I want to say 8 or 9, something like that. So we come from a very, very large Catholic family. Very, very large. Um, we were raised in the church. We said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. Both of our parents were in the military. They both worked at the hospital. Um, Basically, it was just your normal, everyday Southern family. She liked wine. She could tell you anything about wine. Anything. Where it was made, what kind of grapes, how long it took. She loved wine. She absolutely loved wine. She loved reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. She loved to dance. She was in Kelly's dance since she was younger. She did, I don't know. She liked to read. What else, Maria? I mean,
She loved to cook. Like she would
yeah.
make fabulous desserts. She'd make tiramisu from scratch. And then she'd be like, I'm on a diet. I'm not eating that right now. Here, and hand you like an entire tiramisu.
Yeah.
And
And she was,
we love to go like have lunch. And like that's like there's something special about going out to lunch with a girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? Because you can just sit there and talk about all of the things or all of the nothing. And because she and I had both spent, years in the service industry, we tried to like pre-bus our tables. You had to pre-bus your table if you went to lunch with Jessica. All the dishes get stacked neatly in order of size. Silverware goes together. Everything gets pushed to the end of the table. Don't suck on your straw when there's no drink left to make that awful slurping sound. Don't wave your glass at the waitress. Like there were rules, but as long as you knew the rules, everybody's having a good time. So
she also liked to throw dinner parties. Jessica was very easygoing. She made friends, like, very easily. She's very talkative. She's a very, very talkative person. She wasn't shy. She was always happy. She she liked poetry. That was her favorite. Which ones I don't know. I wouldn't be able to remember right now. But she loved poetry. She also liked to read about religion. She studied religion.
I know we read the 50 Shades trilogy at the same time when it came out because that was a big deal. And I remember us being completely like, "Ooh, did you read that? The movies are coming out. Oh my god!" So
So
you can
go
buy
ahead, Maria.
you can buy just a plain old pair of flip flops for a couple dollars, and then she would put like jewels on them or little flowers or ribbons or decoration. They're pretty cute. It didn't really get the traction she was hoping for just because she was so limited in her ability to like get out and get the product out and get attention and resources to make that happen. But that was one of the things she always had an idea. You know what I'm saying? Like she always had some sort of little brainstorm going, something that she wanted to try, some next project. And I think a lot of that fell by the wayside when they got together, because then Gracie became her project. She really, really adored being a mom to that little girl.
She did. She liked to throw dinner parties. She liked to invite her friends and cook for them and just have, a good time. She used to do that a lot.
I remember when she and Rob would come back from college for the weekend, and they would bring like Norm and Paul and a couple other people with them. And they would be sitting around like playing drinking games, because they were in college. And I was just like, like in junior high, like it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life was a bunch of college kids sitting around playing drinking games that were like a little bit cerebral and a whole lot of, okay, now drink. I'd be like shouting out little answers, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, she's so smart. She's gonna be so cool to party with when she gets older." And I was like, like she was the whole world. Like me and Crystal we used to just like just wait for her to be like, "You want to go do something?" We'd be like, "Duh, yeah." So all of that little sister, like, I don't have time. Like, I'm trying to like not sit here and rat the roads that you got from her. I returned that tenfold. I was like, "Where are we going? What are we doing? Let's go be adults." I'm so mature.
And speaking of bands, she loved Prince. She absolutely loved Prince. That was her favorite. She liked all music, but Prince was definitely her favorite. So I imagine Jessica up there making Prince sing to her. That's what I think.
Casually like strolling by head to toe in purple and be like, biggest fan. I could see it. We do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Loves it. She used to say that all the time too. Yes, and that's why you should always go to justiceforjessica.org for all true and accurate information. Or my Twitter account, Justice for
Well,
Jessica.
she may have she may have been like she was very smart, very, very smart. So she may have had a passing fancy for true crime that never ticked her radar enough to talk about it, but it definitely wasn't like a defining characteristic. So, I mean, but she had a lot of pants in the fire all the time.
Well, Jessica was a normal human being. She wanted the husband and the kids and the white picket fence. That was Jessica. Um, if you look back at her annual, I mean, of course, you know how you always put something silly on there, but she's like, I want to be the most famous person in the world and I want to move to Australia. She did have a thing for Australia. She did want to go travel. So, Maria, you want
Well,
to
I
add
mean,
anything?
like as far as like wanting the house and the 2.5 kids and the picket fence and the golden retriever, like she really, really wanted some normalcy. So she was great at having an adventure and, um, you know, great at just deciding at the spur of the moment. Like if you were looking for somebody to be like, okay, let's drive out of state to go shopping at some outlet mall or something and get lunch and just make a day of it, like that was your girl. She was so down to have just a spontaneous adventure. And she spent a lot of her 20s doing exactly that. So I think when she was afforded the opportunity to have this instant family because she met Justin and he had this daughter and it was like let's just all be an instant family immediately. She'll call you mom right away because she's very small. And she was about that life. Like she really wanted to make that work. And the harder and harder it got to make it work, the more determined she was. You know what I'm saying? Like it was obvious that this was not the man of her dreams, but she still wanted him to seem like the man of her dreams. And the more invested she got in Grace, the more she had to just make peace with whatever it was that was thrown at her and and do whatever she had to do to try and keep some semblance of peace and happiness in her household because she had invested in this image of what she wanted her life to be with the mom and the husband and the dog and the house in New Orleans. Like she loved living in New Orleans. And then, you know, the longer she lived there, the less of it she got to see. She didn't really get to leave the house and go have the fun adventures. And I tried to go visit with her um, for it was in August because my youngest son's birthday is in August, and so we just decided to go have a day over there. My whole family and the nanny that we had living with us at the time, and we went to the aquarium, we did zoo things, we did French Quarter for lunch things, and her just living right there and in Metairie or wherever, like that was definitely like she was so down to show up. And then I tried and tried and tried to call her, and she was just not answering the phone. And when we talked that morning, she was like, "Well, because I was like, let's go get lunch," and she was like, "I don't really have a lot of money right now," and I was like, "Girl, I don't care. Come on, like." What's two more people on the meal ticket? Like, come have lunch with us. And so throughout the course of the day when I couldn't get a hold of her, I was like, maybe she's just really uncomfortable with not being able to afford to come eat and come have a good time in the French Quarter. Like maybe she was embarrassed about not having money in her pocket at that moment. And so then like the day wore on, it started to get dark. So we were like, okay, we need to get the kids out of the quarter, go ahead and head on home. We were living in Mobile, so it was like a full 2-hour drive at that point. And so we were almost all the way home, and she sent me a text. She was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just could not wake up. I can't stop crying." And I just couldn't wake up. I couldn't wake up. And we found out later that there was a history of women in her position being um, being given drugs that they didn't know about. So her not being able to wake up when she was supposed to come see me, because she called, we talked about her coming to lunch with me. She was very excited. And then she called me back and she was like, "Well, Justin, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I don't care. I mean, he doesn't have to come." And then next thing I know, she's asleep for the whole day and can't wake up. And, you know, I mean, just for frame of reference to give myself a little street cred, like I I I was a little bit of a wild child in my early 20s. Like I've done, the benzos and the Xanax and all of that sort of stuff, and I'll admit to that. And it does knock you straight out, and you are overly emotional when you wake up, especially if you've taken way too much. So the fact that she couldn't wake up and then she couldn't stop crying, and she was so upset about just having missed lunch with me, and I was like, I don't really like, it's just lunch. Like, why are you so upset? Like, it's cool. Like, we'll catch some other time. And so it all kind of came like in retrospect, like it all kind of like fleshed itself out once the worst had happened and everything came to light in previous relationships and how things like that were handled. So um she was definitely like, she loved to be social. She loved to meet up with friends. She loved to have a good time, and she loved to be so much bigger than the box she was eventually stuffed into, and how small her life was reduced down for her. And it's really unfortunate. So we lost touch for several years, like between 2000, 2001. I moved to the West Coast, got a California number because then you couldn't just have, like, I could have a number from literally anywhere right now, and there's no such thing as long distance. So when I moved out to California, I got a California number. I kind of lost touch with pretty much everybody here, and then moved back after a couple years. And then 2008 rolls around, and all of a sudden there's social media. You know what I'm saying? So we got back in touch via social media. And then 2011, 2012, then along comes Justin. So there were a couple years where we were back in touch. Um, didn't talk really frequently, just like, hey, let's go have lunch. And then we go have lunch, and then we wouldn't talk again for a while. Um, because I had very small children at that point, two very small children, and a husband at that time that was much like Justin, unfortunately. So there wasn't a lot of social interaction in my life that was allowed. I was allowed to focus on the kids, and that's about it, and him, and like keeping his uniform ready for work, and just being available for his every whim, and getting screamed at and thrown out of the house, and then screamed at because I wasn't at the house. And so 2008 to 2013, my life was teetotal hell. And so the communication at that point wasn't wasn't as great as I wanted it to, but we did. So she came over right before, like we were talking pretty frequently right before she met him, and I remember her telling me, I'm going out on the boat tomorrow with my friend, and she's pretty excited, like to go have a little day out on the water with some friends. And then after that day was over, I remember talking to her, and she was like, "This guy's such an asshole, and he was such an asshole to me all day. He was so mean to me all day." And then just a couple days after that, it was, he showed up at my house with some beer, and we sat up all night talking, and he's calling me and texting me, and it was just like a complete 180. And I was like, "Okay, but that's somebody else's, like, what are you doing? Like, we're not that girl." And I was like, right away I was like, this is bad news. And he really quickly went straight into vilifying the woman he was with, who was,
Mm.
her friend. And it was like, she's so awful, and all she does is lay in the bed, and she's a terrible mom to Grace, and the house is a mess. And it's like, Jessica was pretty fastidious at that point in her upkeep of her home, her upkeep of her appearance, always being on the go. Like, she wasn't the type of girl that laid in bed and just felt sad and depressed all day. And by the time he was done with her, she was that woman too. So, that's if you're getting that reaction out of two different women, the problem is you. And
Right.
the ex, yeah, the ex that we're talking about, and I'm in contact with her on social media and whatnot. So I'm not gonna say her name, but um, she ended up just grabbing all her shit and splitting one day and leaving everything just in a big haste. So she escaped from him, much the same way Jessica was trying to escape from him.
She actually has a she actually filed a domestic violence protection order against him.
After she left. Well, she was in a relationship between the guy she dated when I met her when she was in college and this one with him. There was a relationship in between there where there was some pretty extensive abuse that she revealed to me, and then she revealed it to Justin, and then Justin turned around and took that as permission to do exactly the same things to her because she had endured it before. And like, so she said, sometimes I'm asleep and I can't wake up, and he does things that I don't want him to do, and I've told him how I feel about that, and I've told him that's not stuff I want to do, and he does it anyway, and it just makes me like I can't stop crying. And so it was more of her suddenly being unable to wake up, and some pretty atrocious sexual stuff happening to her while she's practically comatose. And this is something that she endured before with somebody before him, and I don't remember the name. Obviously I wouldn't say it here in this interview, but it was something she was pretty ashamed of, that she had endured it. So it doesn't surprise me that she hadn't
I
shared it.
know exactly who you're talking about, but it also ended very quickly too because she didn't put up with that shit. That was not Jessica. I can tell you that now. That was not
Yeah.
Jessica.
So
That
I
that
wasn't.
relationship ended. She left him because of that.
So, and that's
I
at a
remember that.
You do. So that's at a point when
I
I was
remember that.
in contact
Yeah.
with her. So I don't know how long it went on or anything, but just that it was something that she had experienced and she was pretty traumatized by it.
Yeah. She was in she went to college for audiology and speech.
Mhm.
So that was her thing.
And I know
She
she
was
was very excited about all of the extra work she was doing, and she really seemed to to thrive and blossom when she was allowed to go do that. She was very excited about that.
yeah. Anything with fashion, she was very 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 excited about. She probably should have got into fashion, honestly, because I remember her painting her nails and doing the latest do and new makeup techniques whenever she was younger. You know what I'm saying? Like that's probably really was her calling.
You could count
Um
on her to come in with a new magazine. If she went to the grocery store, she would bring home a Cosmo or, Vanity Fair or whatever it was on the shelf. Like if there was somebody new and very big on the cover in a great outfit, like she was going to bring that home. I loved it. She always had like she had like a little basket of magazines that was sitting by our fireplace when we lived together very briefly. I always just thought she was just so glamorous. She was an extra in The Dirt. She did Claws. She did some work in NCIS. And then there was something she was in where it was like set in the 60s because I remember her sending me a picture of herself and like some vintage wear with like a beehive going on. She was
yeah,
she was very excited about that.
Justin actually worked that with her too because Justin was also in the picture. She sent me a picture of her and Justin, but I don't remember what it was.
She was so proud of that beehive.
My sister was smart. She was funny. She she loved hard to a fault, obviously.
Yeah.
Um she is you know, she's just your normal everyday person just trying to make it in this life and got taken away from her by someone else's hands. And that's the truth.
She was so fun to talk to. Like if she would call you, you had to make time because it was going to be funny. You were going to laugh a lot, and it wasn't going to wrap up quickly. It was you were in it to win it in a conversation with Jessica. So like, and I remember like I would just go out and like drag my wagon around the yard and pick up sticks and listen to her say funny things, and like she was a sort of person like what was that show, the improv show with Whose line is it anyway? Where they would say something and then it was just the other person's job to just say the funniest thing they could think of. That's what every conversation was like with her. Like, no matter what you said, she had something just lightning fast and so funny, like it would kind of take your breath away. That she would just come back with some stuff, and it was like, how do you even think of that? And it was just so amusing. Like sometimes, I mean, especially you have kids, obviously. Like sometimes the phone rings and you're like, oh, I don't have time to talk right now. But then you pick up the phone anyway because you know you should. Like, this is my friend calling. I haven't talked to her in like 2 weeks or whatever. And you never regret it. Never regret it. It was always so fun. And there was a really unfortunate phase where anytime, like, you had to learn to let her call you, because if you called her, then you were just talking to Justin the whole time. You couldn't talk to her. So because he would sit right there and she would have you on speakerphone. And if you weren't on speakerphone, she would just kind of repeat everything you said. That way he could have his time to have his input. And I was like, okay, I'll just let you call me forever and ever, amen. So you really had to learn how to like navigate him after a while, which is unfortunate. But before he came along, like, she was the girl that didn't put up with no shit. Like, you mess up once, that's it, you're out. I'll find another guy, it's fine. And um so I don't understand how, when it came down to it, the worst of the worst, she had a tough time getting away. And I know that it had everything to do with Grace, because before Grace, she had no problems whatsoever dropping the axe. Like, sorry, you screwed up. All right, I wish you all the best. Like, no hard feelings. So it was really hard to accept at the end that she had such a hard time letting him go. But it was Grace that she had a hard time letting go of. Really, she
Yeah.
loved being a mom to her.
Yeah. I actually think that she got broken down, and then, you know what I'm saying, little by little, the
Yeah,
light in her eyes just left, and it was just, it was hard for her. Not because she didn't want to leave, but because she was so broken. He broke her because, I mean, yeah, he broke her.
just manipulation. Yeah,
Yeah. You're the first person that's asked to do just a show on the actual what Jessica was like. On Twitter, I sit there and I try to put like what she liked, what her favorite holiday was. You know what I'm saying? She loved 4th of July and she loved Christmas. Those were her favorite. You know what I'm saying? Like, I try to sit there and humanize her on Twitter, but uh, sometimes, and people do respond to that, but sometimes it's so painful to sit there and you know what I'm saying? It's just painful. So and I feel like, and I know that it's important for people to see her as a human being, but there's so much of her life out there that I just want to savor the stuff of Jessica. You know what I'm saying? Just I don't know. It's
they
but
won't even call it a homicide. That's the big hangup,
yes,
because
I actually talked to the detective a couple of nights ago, and he said that he that homicide that nothing. What am I trying to say? Say it for me, Maria. Jesus Christ, because I'm starting to get pissed off just thinking about it.
I don't know. What did you talk to Len about? Because I know you
I
called him about the futon, but I wasn't.
I asked him if same thing I said yesterday with Sarah Turney. Basically, he said that they can't investigate, they can't proceed any further until the coroner calls it a homicide because it's undetermined. They can't do anything. I'm like, okay, that didn't make any fucking sense, but whatever, because I'm tired of fighting with you. This is a 24-hour a day, 7 days a fucking week, 365 days. From the time I get up in the morning, the first thing I think about, honestly, is I'm not happy. I'm sad. I cry every day. And the first thing I think about is, how can I get my sister's story out there? How can I get her fucking justice? What do I gotta fucking do? Like, it's taking over my life to the point to where I'm on fucking medicine because my doctor says I'm in stroke mode. Maria, tell her, please.
All of that, what she just said. Like, it just, because the ball's not in our court. You know what I'm saying? The ball is so firmly in somebody else's court, and all we can do is like make noise at this point and raise hell. That's our only recourse. Like, there's no thing we can accomplish. It's not like they're like, okay, well, if you could just do this thing, then we could help you. There's no things, there's no missions, there's no tasks. It's just, sorry, go away.
Yes. It shouldn't be this hard for anyone, because here's the deal. If it's happening to us, then it's fucking happening to everyone else, other people out there. And no one should have to sit there and fight the justice system for their fucking loved one to get justice and accountability. There's just, it shouldn't be that way. Which reminds me, I want to do a call to action to the Orleans Parish District Attorney, Jason R. Williams, the People's DA. I would like for you to call and request that he investigate the death of Jessica Easterly Durning at 504 822 2414. Please. Because apparently this is the only person that can actually start an investigation without having to go through all these other people. And we'll also have a petition coming out. But for right now, just calling the DA. Please. She loved the color purple. 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 And then she liked to wear red and pink lipstick. Those were her favorite colors.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they can, because I don't know if you've seen Jacob Landon, Eric Landon's brother, Jacob, who died, what was it, 30 years ago? Case was closed. They had people call to action, calling the DA, and guess what? His case is now reopened again. It happens. Yeah. Yeah, it's happening. Yeah. And, it's just us little old people, you know what I'm saying? And sure, we may make a couple of little waves in the pond, but it takes everybody to make those big waves come crashing down and be like, you know what? This needs to be investigated. This is bullshit. This is not right.
Yeah.
Takes your
It'll
breath
never
away.
it'll never stop taking your breath away.
And it doesn't get any easier. I don't care what people say. It doesn't get any easier at all. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.